Yeah, there's data everywhere. And in your current job, no matter where you work, it's being collected and it's being used. So, if you can figure that out and figure out something that interests you in your current job and the data around it and be able to get in and help with that data. So
Hey nerds, Monica here. Welcome to the Data Podcast for Nerds, where we get to talk to amazing professionals and ask them all about how they're using data to solve the world's problems. We're highlighting skills that data professionals use on a daily basis. Plus, we always include some fun bits because we're all nerds here and we love to have fun. So thank you for tuning in, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And as always, folks, happy learning. Today with us, we have Joe Squire. How are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Monica. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show. We start our episodes by understanding people's origin stories. So, if you could please tell us about your background and how you got to where you are today in your career.
Yeah, so like any good story, it starts with a girl and a dream, and it's basically started when I left high school, and my career dream at the time was to be the sound engineer for Pixar. And I went to my first TCOM 101 class, and the professor got up, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Thanks for coming to this class. Thanks for participating in this degree for a job where you really don't need a degree." And at that point in my life, I thought I should probably reevaluate my choices and figure out what I want to do. And then, in a very roundabout way, I ended up chasing my high school sweetheart who I'd broken up with and went to a college to get a nursing degree and went through that whole process. The girl didn't work out, but I met my wife there, my current wife there, and we are both nurses. And I went into the nursing profession after school. And 7 years into that, I was looking for a change and kind of accidentally stumbled into data. It was through a quality program at my hospital, in my health system, that I got a position, mostly looking for more work-life balance. And from there, things kind of steamrolled, and my career is where it is now because of making that decision to move into analytics. And now I currently sit as director of analytics and data science for UPMC Heart and Vascular Institute, and it's been a whirlwind of a ride, to say the least.
Yeah. How exactly did you just stumble on data?
Well, so at the time, my wife and I were having our first kid, and I was in a position where I was sharing call with one other individual. So 24/7 call, one other individual. We were taking about 2,000 hours of call a year, which is not conducive to a family life. And so it was me looking for a role in nursing. It's like a role away from the bedside. And there was a manager that I'd interacted with on a previous application, and he was I was fortunate enough that he was pretty pushy in trying to get me in and working with him, and so this role came up, and it happened to be with him, and he was like engaging with me and brought me in, and really it was just glorified data entry where they needed somebody with clinical background to do it, and obviously I quickly got bored of that. I'd worked in some pretty fast-paced areas when I was a nurse, and so getting bored with it, I've naturally asked, "Hey, we're collecting this data. What are we doing with it? How are we using it? What can we do with it?" And so that was the curiosity that started driving me to really learn Excel, start learning about databases, SQL, and then from there it just, like I said, it snowballed. And really the curiosity, that pervasive curiosity, is really kind of what drove me to really hone down and pursue this career in data.
Yeah. And you're still in the healthcare industry. So how did the two kind of overlap?
So I mean, a big majority of the work I do now is still around clinical outcomes, which is where I started years ago. But now I have more of a broader scope. So with the clinical outcomes, there's a lot of data management governance around that we do. With some of the other things that I've taken on are our broader analytics group, where there's a heavy research focus. So using all the data that's generated in the healthcare system, we can look at different questions and produce research papers on those. And then the other side is partnering with operations and finance and our enterprise analytics group in terms of helping those teams use data, find solutions for issues that they have so they can make better decisions. And so it's really, there's so much data that's generated in any industry, but healthcare being particularly one of these like really data heavy industries. And we just don't have the ability in healthcare or the skill in healthcare to really leverage all that data that is generated. I mean, you think of, let's say, anybody that goes to their doctor's office who has an electronic health record. You're generating data before the office visit. You're generating data as you enter the office. You're generating data as you are getting weighed, as you're getting your vitals taken. You're generating data as the physician is sitting there in front of you and they're writing notes down and putting orders in. And then after you leave, any of the follow up stuff, that's data. And it's just one big thing of data after another. So it's there's definitely a lot of opportunity in healthcare around analytics and how we harness data in healthcare.
Absolutely. So then how do you capture all of the data that's not, necessarily in a database? I'm assuming you have handwritten data, there's probably some voice data involved. Do you ingest that in a way and utilize that for your data work?
Yeah, there's a lot of our work is more on discrete data with my team in particular, but there's a lot of work going on within the systems, within the system or within third party companies that we've partnered with. Uh, and in particular, one group that we're working on a project with, their whole the original concept of what they've done is take basically dictated notes, so notes that somebody just reads into a dictaphone and then somebody transcribes it or a computer transcribes it into a note. So it's really hard to pull data out of that unless you're using NLP or some version of AI that can interact with that kind of tech or that textual data. And this group, they've basically worked with another team in the system who curated all these notes so that we can go in and basically call through all these notes and find particular pieces about patients that we wouldn't be able to find otherwise because it's not discreetly documented anywhere. And so it's fascinating because then we can use that to match patients to clinical research trials, or we can try to find patients that have certain cancer stages that we wouldn't be able to find otherwise because they're unless you're interacting with them at the clinical level. And so it's a fascinating and very um, hard area to work in just because of there's so many different modalities of data in healthcare. Another one being imaging. Imaging is a huge part of healthcare, and it's not the face detection type imaging analysis. Like you're looking at a CT scan it has thousands and thousands of images just in one scan, and each of those images needs to be looked at and analyzed in a certain way if you're trying to achieve something. So there's a lot of specialty work in those areas as well.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the data that you're working with is PHI. So, how does that kind of change the way that you work when you're dealing with all of that PHI information?
I Whenever somebody asks me that question, my mind always goes to the negative aspect of it, and that's it slows down our progress a lot just because if we don't have the capabilities of handling the nature of the analytics project in house, and we want to go to a third party who can do it, it takes a long time to vet that party and get everything in place that we need to get them in and working. And so that highly regulated environment, it can slow down the progress, but it's also meant, like, obviously it's also meant to protect people. So that's that's the difficulty, trying to balance that, the protection versus the ability to innovate and adapt and move forward with uh, certain things that we need to do to achieve our business goals. And so, yeah, it's a difficult question, um, and I don't think there's any great answer, but there's definitely it definitely puts up a lot of red tape, but it also does protect that data in a much better way than you see maybe in the tech world, where you get movies made about how data has been exploited by certain companies, and there's a lot of ethical questions around that, because the amount of money they generated by unethically exploiting data, is it it's probably a lot more than what they made with the fines that they had to pay after they got caught. And so it's an interesting conundrum that you run into, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. So, what types of problems do you like to solve in your healthcare world?
The biggest ones that I really like to solve, and it's not necessarily like these big burning issues that are going on, but it's really just being able to help an individual who comes to you with some request, whether it's, hey, I need to find this certain piece of data to answer this question, or I have this certain process that where we're currently collecting data and I want to make it better. And then being able to deliver on that and help them out. And it's really about solving their needs and meeting their needs, and being able to see at the end, like, that appreciation that they get, and the excitement that they get from seeing, like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like, we can really do some good stuff with just automation, or just being able to tap the right data sources and find the right data.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So at this time, I would like to transition into our fun bits section. Hey, nerd, are you looking for a career in data? I would absolutely love to help you out. I just launched a data career strategy program that helps folks break into data without breaking anything. I provided a link in the show notes if you want to learn more information about it. Now, back to the fun bits. So I was listening to you on a different podcast, and you were talking about a topic that I thought was quite interesting, and I want to deep dive into it a little bit more. And that was the topic of left brain versus right brain. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I forget which podcast it was, but the idea of, and so I think this came from the concept of me having grown up, and I alluded to the fact that I wanted to be a sound engineer. I alluded to the fact that um, I was pretty artsy growing up, so I was involved with the theater. So I did the musicals. I was in band, and I loved doing photography and videography. And it was, I always wanted to be an artist, but at I realized eventually that I could never, I had too much right brain as well. So I was doing math, I was in chemistry, and I did well at those things, and I was very organized, and I had that right brain side of me was very much like still intact. And so I realized that to be an artist, or at least this is my opinion, to be an artist, you had to be able to truly, like, just let the left brain consume you, and be able to just unlock that creativity and just that uniqueness that I feel your right brain holds you back from. And so I never could go full left brain, because the right brain was just always in conflict with that. And so I think a lot of the decisions I've made with my career have been trying to find that balance between the creativity and the analytical side of my brain. So creativity on the left side, analytical on the right side. And nursing was that balance, and it's because it's both an art and science. And then I think I think analytics even more meets that, because there's a lot of people see analytics and they think math, or they think, somebody that has like a physics degree or something. But there's a lot of creativity that can go into problem solving, data visualization, anything like figuring out how to write a SQL query that creatively solves a way of joining two tables and making it work for the end product. And so there's a lot of creativity that goes into it, but there's also a lot of analytical thought as well that you need to have and you can marry those and really have a very fulfilling career, because you aren't just stuck in like one line of thought. You aren't just stuck thinking analytically, or aren't just stuck thinking creatively about something. And so that's kind of where my thoughts were around that right and left brain aspect of what we do and how we work.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. I was also in band. What did you play in band?
Trumpet, but I
Okay.
picked up guitar for the girls. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. I started in orchestra, and then I moved to band, and then I moved to auxiliary. So I was in the marching band doing like the flags and the palms and all of that. So I kind of done that whole round. And but I also had my analytical side. Loved spreadsheets. Was very organized. Still am very organized. And so yeah, I have that kind of same. Where I'm in both.
Yeah,
Both
cool.
brains.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So on this topic, I was doing some research and trying to see if I can find some fun graphics to share and whatnot. And I actually stumbled on an image where you can test whether you are right or left brained. And I thought that this would be a fun exercise to go through if you're up for it.
Well, yeah, let's do it.
All right, so this is what I found. And here, this is cute little action figure with a left and right brain. For those folks that may be just listening audio, I'll try to describe what you're looking at, right? So we're looking at kind of a stick figure, little person, and highlighting left brain and right brain and giving you some steps to take to kind of figure out which one you are. And so I also have some annotations that we'll use here if that works, hopefully. And so, okay, the first step is to circle the ear you listen to through a door. Joe, which ear do you listen to when you're trying to listen to your kids or your wife through the door? I think mine's the right, since I just did that. So
Yeah, I think it depends on the door, right? Like,
oh, okay.
if you're coming up to the door, it's going to be whatever side's easiest to access. I don't know.
Okay.
I would probably go with left
You're going with left?
yeah.
Okay. So I'll circle that, and then I'll pick pink, and I'll circle the right, I think, because that's what I just did. So all right. So the second step here is to circle which eye is stronger. And there's a step 2.1, how to find out which eye is stronger. So what you need to do is extend your arms and make a triangle with your thumbs. I'll do that, right? I'll use my camera. Okay. And it says to center a light switch in the triangle. I'm doing it with my camera. And it says close each eye. I probably should take my glasses off. Close each eye, and which one keeps the switch centered is your stronger eye. Okay, so I have my triangle. And for me, it's the left.
Yeah, mine's the left.
Yours is the left?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do a pink circle and a blue circle on the left. Okay. Third step. Circle the hand you use to write or eat. Now, for me, this one's hard. I'm actually going to have to circle the left and the right because I write with my right hand and I eat with my left hand.
That's weird.
I am truly ambidextrous, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I'm circling both.
Yeah, I'm left-handed, but I do. There's certain things I do with my right, but it's much more limited. Like I throw a ball with my right hand.
Okay. Are we circling both for you too?
I would no, because it says eat, used to write and eat. Yeah, it's left. I
Yeah,
am
it does say right or
singular with writing and eating. So
okay. In which one is that?
left.
You're left. Okay. And step 4, circle the foot you use to kick a ball.
I'm right-footed.
Right-footed? Okay. When was the last time you kicked a ball?
Well, I played soccer growing up through high school, so
Oh,
I
okay.
can kick with my left too, but it's my right's dominant.
Oh, okay. All right. I can't remember the last time I kicked a ball, but I'm thinking it's the right. I've played kickball at one point in my life. I think it was the right. All right. So the last step 5, basically you are looking at, how many of rights and how many of lefts you have circled, and that is whether you are a left or a right brained. So looking at the blues, we have left, 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 and right. So it looks like you're left brained, Joe.
Monica, I feel like we were bad examples to do this with.
I know.
Being ambidextrous.
Well, no, actually. So hold on. Let's do mine first before I go into my thought process. So I have right, left, right, left, right. Okay, so I guess I'm right. So no, I do agree with you. So both of us do seem very ambidextrous, but I do think that is very common for folks in the data field, right? So we're looping back around to our discussions. I'll go ahead and stop sharing, but so thank you for playing that game with me. I had fun.
If this was live, it'd be a great poll to see what the people are.
That would be so fun. Okay, so please comment below if you are listening to this episode, and if you were able to follow along, I'll actually provide a link to the image that we were using, and play along with that, figure out, are you left or right brained, and comment below.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the data world's. Well, I think you would also have to categorize. Now here goes the data stuff. You would also have to
right
what role they have in the analytics. Like, and again, like what's the reliability of this test?
Oh, true. I mean, yeah, we'll put an asterisk, like results may vary. No, it's like those quizzes that you find on BuzzFeed. Is BuzzFeed still a thing anymore? I used to take BuzzFeed quizzes all the time.
I have no idea. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. I used to see them a lot, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I am curious to know if, from the data community, what we see. Are they mostly left or right brained? One question that I like to ask all my guests is around learning, specifically learning new things. And what is your approach to learning new things? Like, what resources do you like to use?
I am a big book fan. For like it, so I have 2 different like ways of learning. So one is I don't know what I would call it. It's just learning to learn. So I'm curious in a topic and I want to learn about it. I'll read a book. If I have the other one is my problem focused learning. So if I have a problem I want to solve, I'll seek out materials that are specific to solving that problem. So a good example would be like analytics. And if I have an analytics project and I need to learn how to web scrape with Python, like I'm going to go find a resource that specifically teaches how do you web scrape with Python versus reading a book on, you know, learning Python. so, so, and I guess just to give an example of just my learning to learn. So if I want to, understand like the theoretical basis of how you approach data management or something, like that would be more of a book related topic where I can, dive into a broader scope without really seeking a specific problem, but just learn frameworks and things that you can apply when problems come up later down the road.
Do you like, what are your thoughts on like project portfolios?
Um, I think you can definitely use them to stand out. Uh, I mean, my like getting into analytics, I didn't need a project portfolio to do that. I did have one for one of my first major promotions, and I do think that helped solidify that. And a lot of the time, if I'm applying to a position and I have work relevant to that position, I put together what I would consider a portfolio and try to get it to either the recruiter or the hiring manager, like up front, so they can see the work that I've done in that area rather than just reading about it in my resume. So I think so going back to my hesitation whenever you asked me about it, I think it's good to have one and just have it out there generically, but I don't think that's going to seal the deal with a lot of things. I think just like your resume, you almost have to tailor it to your job. So rather than relying on, a GitHub link or, a Maven Analytics portfolio that you have out there, whenever you do get that initial phone screen or you get that initial hiring manager interview, I would encourage people to try to, if you have the work there, to tailor, like, I just put it in PDF format and as much as I can anyway, and tailor that portfolio that you can then deliver to and the recruiter or the hiring manager so they can see it and have it in front of them whenever you're talking to them. And that helps set you apart because one, it makes you unique. There's probably not a lot of other people that are giving them extra stuff to look at and understand who they are. And two, it also demonstrates that you have some background in this area and you have worked and done things that are applicable to the job.
Mm-hmm. I've never thought about putting together a portfolio for a promotion. That's really interesting. How or if does that differ than, the portfolios that everybody is using to get a job?
Well, I think because it's more tailored. So the promotion was basically, doing work that I already done just at a different level. And so demonstrating and so I guess really what these portfolios do that I'm talking about is it visualizes your resume. And so it takes and that's what any of these portfolios do. But it really allows somebody to understand, okay, rather than there's a bullet point in saying, oh, I did XYZ, it's like, here, I did XYZ and you can see the results of it. And so it shows them that there's that extra level of dedication. Plus, it allows them to understand that, oh, they're willing to put extra effort into this application and they're willing to go the extra distance to try to help me understand and help convince me that you're the right person. So I think that really does help set you apart. I'm not going to say it like the last two times I've done it, I didn't get the position, but it gets. I think it was part of the reason that I got further than I did than I would have had I not provided a portfolio.
Mm-hmm. The portfolio that you're using to get the promotion, I'm assuming that you're using work that you have done in your current job, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think in some aspect it's easier to put together, right? Because it's work that you've already been working on. It's not something that you have to go out, search for a data set, put together your own project and all of that. It's just stuff that you have been working on all along. And plus, you don't have to anonymize it or, modify it in any way to share with a recruiter or a hiring manager, because you're still working within the same company or the same team.
Right, and even external to that, like a lot of the if you've been working in data or if you've done stuff with data in your current role, even though it may not be explicitly an analytics role, and you're applying to a position that's external to your company, and you do have work that aligns with that job, put together that portfolio, like it's and deliver it to them in a PDF format or whatever format, but get it in front of them. Reduce the friction that it takes to see it. That's key, I think. So rather than having to click out and navigate GitHub, which not everybody's familiar with how to navigate GitHub, and or some other portfolio site that may not be intuitive, get it in front of them, get it on their desk as best you can, because it reduces the friction of them having to take time and go somewhere else and look at it. And so I think that's my concept of like what a really effective portfolio is going to be. But yeah, I think it's important to have that portfolio out there, and it want to get you the reps and experiencing how you build one, and two, you have it on hand in case there is, because I've had applications where they explicitly ask for a product portfolio link, and so if you don't have it, you don't have it. That's not common, but it does exist. And so, and personally, as somebody that hires, like I would definitely love to see a product portfolio if somebody put it in front of me. Now, if I had an application that is open and I get 1,000 applicants, there's no way I'm going to be able to view that 1,000 portfolios that come in with those applications. But if somehow, and I can't guarantee how it's going to work because it all depends on the people, like the back end, and how documents are delivered to the hiring manager or the recruiter. But if you can attach something that you think is going to make you stand out up front, and then deliver it again if you get the interviews, like I think that's a great way to really hammer down and show people that you're unique and that you will go above and beyond.
Absolutely. And you make a good point in that, like, not everyone would be familiar with navigating something like a GitHub or another kind of platform to review your portfolio. So printing it onto a PDF would, be easier to consume for that recruiter or hiring manager. I saw somebody was talking the other day around treating your project portfolio like a blog. So, do you have any recommendations for folks that are coming from different industries, different fields, that are wanting to get into data analytics, what they should do?
Yeah, there's data everywhere. And in your current job, no matter where you work, it's being collected and it's being used. So if you can figure that out and figure out something that interests you in your current job and the data around it, and be able to get in and help with that data. So it's not always feasible to do that, but it's worth investigating, worth reaching out to individuals and having that conversation about, hey, I'm interested in this. Is there, do I have some ability to either shadow or help with it? I can help streamline the collection that occurs here at the front end or something like that. And I think just investigating those opportunities is really key to helping you understand, one, do you actually want to get into analytics? And two, it helps tee up and get that experience that you need to get into analytics. And it's a tough world right now in terms of the experience that you need and what people are looking for to break into analytics. But it's definitely doable, especially if you can get yourself seen as being unique and having talents that people want. And I think that segues into a good discussion of there's a lot of intangible talents and that people have and experiences that they have in roles that they're currently in that translate really well to analytics or specific jobs that you might apply to. And it's a skill in of itself to identify that and be able to, talk through, identify those processes, those skills, and be able to express that in a resume. And so it's easier said than done. But if you can figure that out, if you can figure out what skills translate well into a specific job that you're applying to, and you can tailor your resume to that job and express those skills in a way that people understand, oh, hey, like because of X, Y, and Z, this person may be really good at this one aspect that we're looking at. And so I think that's a big thing, is being able to tailor that resume in a way that convinces people, at least up front, to get you in the door and start having those conversations. And that's the biggest thing, is getting through the door. Once you're through the door, the big thing's gonna be preparation. So you can't just wing an interview. Like, you have to prepare. I'm the last, granted I'm at a senior level, but the last set of interviews I went through, I probably spent, it was only 3 rounds, but the last round was a presentation I had to give. And I probably spent an insane amount of time on it, but I would estimate I probably put 8 to 10 hours of prep work for the last interview. And that included like putting the presentation together, rehearsing the presentation, and, refining the presentation. And so there are people out there that are doing more than I do, like in terms of preparing. So it's all a matter of like, how bad do you want it and how much are you going to prepare for it. So yeah, it's tough, but it's definitely something people can do if you're willing to put the work in, if you're willing to stay with it. And it's you're going to face a lot of rejection, because the acceptance rate on jobs is like, whatever, but it's very low. so it's definitely hard work, but it's doable if you truly put your mind to it.
Absolutely. You said it in an insane amount, and I was thinking like 40 to 100
no.
hours or something like that. That's an insane amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't track it, but it was decent amount of work for, like, on top of a full-time job, and you're trying to, navigate everything in life. But
absolutely. Yeah. How do you practice presentations? Do you bring in your wife and kids and present to them, or do you have pets that you're presenting in front of? I record myself and then watch it later and kind of pick out like improvement areas.
yeah, recording's a good one. That's usually what I do. Other than that, it's just the reps. So running through the presentation out loud is really key, because you basically nail down your core concepts that you want to hit on, and you can riff in between whenever you get to that point of presenting. And because you've nailed down the core concepts, then you kind of know how you're going to transition from one to the next. And so it's really just the practice the practice is the biggest thing in my mind.
I agree. The out loud part too.
Yeah. Yep.
For some reason that helps out a lot.
Yep. It doesn't, for me, it does not work if I try to rehearse it internally. Like, you have to say it out loud.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for coming on the show. Do you have any final words of encouragement for the folks that are listening out there?
Yeah, it's just be you. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Is I've always struggled with just being myself for a long time, and I think whenever you get to that point where you're just comfortable being yourself and presenting yourself, and I guess what I'm thinking in my mind right now is with interviewing, and you don't need to put on, false pretenses. Like, just try to be yourself, be professional. There's obviously some guidelines around that, but be yourself. Like if you have to pretend to get in somewhere, don't. It's not worth it. So I guess that's my words of encouragement. Don't be afraid of yourself.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you again. If anybody has questions for you, where can they find and or follow you?
LinkedIn, that's where I'm active. Haven't really gone anywhere else except for there.
All right.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Monica.
Absolutely. And as always, folks, happy learning.